The story begins with a boy being bullied because his magic is considered weak. A boastful noble approaches and laughs at him, intending to show off true magic by trying to burn him alive. But something is strange. Instead of being afraid, he's mesmerized by the flame magic directed at him. In his heart, he thinks the magic is incredibly cool and hopes to learn it someday. It seems his prayer is answered. Soon after, he's reborn in a new world and wakes up in a lavish room full of servants. Startled, he mistakes them for giants and immediately fires a fireball. The attack is so powerful it blasts a hole through the palace roof. It turns out he has been reincarnated as the newborn 7th prince named Loid. Seeing the incident, the servants in the room can only stare blankly at what the baby prince just did. The story continues 6 years later. The servants are busy searching for Loid, who loves playing hide-and-seek. When he emerges from his hiding spot, he's discovered by 2 nobles. Loid asks them not to tell on him to his servants. Although they agree and invite him hunting, Loid acts indifferent and runs away. After Loid leaves, one noble remarks that they should curry favor with Loid, believing the 7th prince poses no threat. However, the other noble disagrees. He recalls seeing Loid reading an ancient magic book when he was a baby. Therefore, he is convinced Loid is the reincarnation of the legendary magic master named William Burduke. Unbeknownst to them, Loid overhears their conversation and realizes he is indeed a reincarnation, but he was merely a farmer in his previous life, not William Burduke. Loid cares nothing for the throne. His mind is filled only with magic, magic, magic. He immediately rushes to the library to search for new magic. Just as he is about to grab a book, his personal attendant, Silva, suddenly appears. Consequently, he is caught skipping practice. Loid complains he doesn't need to learn swordsmanship since he won't compete for the throne. Hearing this, Silva immediately becomes aggressive, stating that training is mandatory for the royal family and emphasizes that educating Loid is his life's mission. Loid realizes that if he is lazy, practice might last until dawn. Therefore, he decides to get serious to finish practice quickly. As they continue sparring, Silva notices Loid is getting stronger. Loid, who knows Silva is holding back, secretly uses control magic to mimic Silva's sword movements. Feeling he is still inferior in stamina, he adds physical enhancement magic and levitation magic to increase his agility. The sparring becomes fierce, and Silva is shocked by Loid's development. Feeling he has the upper hand, Loid turns off his control magic and prepares a finishing strike. However, Silva easily blocks his attack, having realized Loid was cheating all along. Loid is instantly defeated.
Silva explains he can see the difference in aura when Loid uses magic. Surprisingly, Silva is pleased with Loid's talent, even proudly stating that Loid used 2 spells simultaneously, something supposedly difficult even for imperial mages. Loid remains silent, sweating nervously, immensely relieved that Silva thought he only used 2 spells when he actually used 4 spells, including physical enhancement and control magic. His skill at deception proves quite useful. That afternoon, Loid overhears gossip about a forbidden library containing a powerful demon named Grimoire. Legend says the demon was sealed in a book because it almost destroyed the kingdom. Hearing this, Loid, the magic maniac, immediately rushes to find the place. To sneak in, Loid uses stealth magic. He overhears guards saying the seal is impossible to break as it was created by 10 of the strongest mages. However, the young Loid only needs to touch the seal slightly and it instantly shatters. Inside, the demon Grimoire appears, utterly shocked to see a child who broke the legendary seal. Grimoire begs to be freed, even offering gold. Loid refuses, calling the gold cheap, and instead intends to reseal Grimoire to study magic in peace. Seeing this, Grimoire panics and reveals his trump card, knowledge of lost ancient magic. Hearing the words ancient magic, Loid's eyes instantly light up. He completely breaks the seal. Once free, Grimoire immediately attacks Loid with an ancient spell called Arcus Absur, which destroys the entire room. Grimoire laughs triumphantly, but Loid is still standing calmly, protected by a super strong barrier. Oddly, Loid is fascinated and asks Grimoire to increase the attack's power. Grimoire grows increasingly annoyed, continuously casting spells, but none penetrate the barrier. Meanwhile, Loid is busy analyzing, even poking the magic with his finger and saying, "It hurts, but it's beautiful." Frustrated, Grimoire grows a second head so he can cast 2 spells simultaneously. Even so, Loid remains calm, mentally noting, "Oh, so that's how demons use advanced magic." Shocked that his strongest magic is ineffective, Grimoire tries to escape, but realizes he's trapped within Loid's barrier. Loid explains he deliberately placed a super thick barrier throughout the library to contain the magic, unlike the roof incident when he was a baby. Loid then fires a giant fireball, scorching the demon. Afterwards, Loid immediately repairs the destroyed library. Seeing all this, Grimoire freezes and prostrates himself, acknowledging Loid as his master. Not finished, Loid gets another brilliant idea. He wants to test how much pain the demon can endure. Grimoire, terrified, quickly swears eternal loyalty to become Loid's familiar. Loid agrees but asks Grimoire to change his appearance to a chibi version. While transforming, Grimoire secretly tries to attack Loid when he's distracted, hiding in Loid's clothes and attempting to control his mind. This fails completely because Loid's mana is incredibly dense, like concrete. Finally, Grimoire resigns himself and asks to be called Grim.
Soon after, the second prince, Albert, Loid's older brother, arrives. They go to the training ground where Albert shows off his accurate magic. Loid learns from Grim that Albert is strong and a likely candidate for the throne. When Loid is asked to try, he deliberately misses the target, only skimming it. His reason, he doesn't want to get dragged into succession disputes. Consequently, the watching nobles dismiss him, but Grim knows the nobles are fools. They didn't see that Loid actually hit the exact same spot on all targets, which is much harder. Loid, meanwhile, is thinking about the theory of spell rotation. Albert senses something is strange and decides to leave Loid alone. With the private training ground to himself, Loid is thrilled. He wants to try a new trick he learned from Grim, dual enhancement. Although Grim protests, calling it demon magic, Loid ignores him and absorbs Grim into his body. Grim panics. Loid explains this is called a spell stack. He's trying to reduce the casting time by mixing incantations, aiming to stack 100 spells simultaneously. Grim is shocked as magic normally only allows 2 or 3 stacks. Still not satisfied, Loid speaks through Grim's mouth, announcing he will combine 2 advanced spells, water and fire magic. Seeing this, Grim is speechless. Loid feels insane power and shoots the combined magic straight into the sky. Elsewhere, Albert is drinking tea, explaining to ministers that Loid is a genius because he hit the target at the exact same spot. Suddenly, they realize the sky has gone dark. Returning to the training ground, the area is ruined. Grim is terrified because Loid just blasted a hole in the atmosphere. Loid is initially mesmerized, but a second later, he also panics seeing the hole. Fortunately, after a while, the hole closes by itself. The next morning, Grim is shocked to see the mysterious hole in the sky as the main news, Loid's doing. Loid, however, is unconcerned. He focuses on the news about an adventurer clearing an A-rank dungeon. Suddenly, his magic mania side takes over. He thinks this is a golden opportunity to farm magic items. He decides to go to the dungeon. Grim immediately protests, reminding Loid he is a prince and can't just run off. If he tries, the palace will be in chaos. Loid calmly replies he already has a plan. He pulls out a pellet and creates a clone of himself. Grim sees the clone as very realistic and believes it should work. However, Grim realizes one big problem. The clone alone won't fool Silva, Loid's super servant. Just as he says this, the real Loid is already snuck out of the castle, leaving the Grim-controlled clone behind. Via magic communication, Grim complains about how hard it is to imitate Loid. He remembers Loid transferred his consciousness to the clone, while Loid uses Grim's body as a kind of controller. Grim thinks his master is crazy. Loid instructs Grim to act correctly, so Silva is deceived. Grim is initially lazy, thinking he'd be free, but Loid suddenly says he's happy to have Grim as his familiar. Hearing this, the demon gets emotional and tells Loid to hurry back.
Meanwhile, Loid is outside, but he's lost. He sees a girl being chased by a horde of orcs. Just as Loid is about to help, the girl turns around and fights all the orcs alone with just her bare hands. He realizes the girl is strong thanks to her breathing technique. Loid remembers reading that in a foreign country there are fighters who use ki energy for supernatural techniques. Unfortunately, the girl realizes she is being watched. Loid wants to introduce himself, but Grim reminds him that he must not be exposed as a prince. Loid agrees, but the girl is already approaching, ready to fight. Loid quickly uses illusion magic, transforming his appearance into a handsome man named Robert. Since the illusion can only mimic people he has met, Loid uses a dual incantation to combine his appearance with his brother's. The result is a super handsome guy. The girl introduces herself as Tao, a B-rank adventurer. Upon seeing
Robert. She is instantly smitten, thinking she has found her soulmate after 18 years of training. Without hesitation, she decides to make Loid her boyfriend. Loid, the innocent one, only says he is looking for a dungeon. Tao eagerly offers to be his guide. They finally reach the dungeon. Inside, Tao shows off her skills, slaughtering all the monsters. She asks if Loid is impressed, but Loid is more interested in a sparkling stone on the wall. His focus is completely different. During a break, Loid asks Tao about Ki. Tao is surprised, as Ki is not famous on this continent. Tao explains that Ki circulates through breathing, giving users supernatural power, and the training takes a long time. While explaining, Tao realizes Loid is trying to mimic her breathing technique. As a result, Loid is in pain, feeling his lungs burn. Tao panics, telling him to stop, but Loid ignores her. He tries again and feels an energy different from mana. He thinks it can be combined with magic. Seeing Loid so serious, Tao decides to teach him about Ki. While teaching, Tao remains mesmerized by Robert's handsomeness. Before continuing, she tells Loid to hold the breathing technique until they leave. Meanwhile, at the palace, Grim, disguised as Loid, is grumbling. He thinks Loid is weird, seeking hardship when he could be living comfortably. But while grumbling, Silva suddenly appears. Grim breaks out in cold sweat, fearing his disguise will be exposed. Back in the dungeon, Tao is still fighting monsters. She says she defeated the dungeon boss using a berserk skill. They are ready to collect the reward, but Tao warns against expecting good treasure as it's an easy dungeon. Loid is still excited to see the treasure chest.
On the other hand, Tao saw that Loid was getting used to Ki breathing techniques, and he thought Loid was incredibly talented. He was even sure his grandfather would agree to make Robert his fiancé.
Suddenly, a surprise attack occurs. Loid instinctively saves Tao. A lich appears. Loid is ready to fight, but Tao tells Loid to leave, saying she will handle it. Loid refuses, wanting to stay and research. Tao, wasting no time, attacks the lich and throws Loid out of the dungeon to safety.
At this point, the lich immediately attacked Tao, but Tao managed to dodge. Tao panicked, wondering how there was a lich in a dungeon at this level. Even elite adventurers had a hard time defeating it. So now, he just hoped to buy time for Loid to escape.
Loid, flying through the air, thinks he still has much to learn. He uses a barrier to cushion his landing. He tries to contact Grim, but Grim's voice sounds strange, only telling him to hurry back. Grim is panicking due to Silva's interrogation. Meanwhile, Tao is struggling to hold off the lich, fearing she will die. The lich mocks Tao's ki, calling it cheap magic. He claims to be strong from eating adventurers' souls, and says Tao is not worth eating. But he is curious about Loid, who dodged his surprise attack. Hearing this, Tao realizes Loid and the lich both seek knowledge but have vastly different natures. Loid finds even the smallest thing, like Ki, interesting, unlike others who dismiss it. Tao is happy, Loid finds Ki cool. The lich grows bored of Tao's ranting. However, Tao suddenly attacks using Ki, shouting she sacrificed her youth for self-defense. Boom! She breaks the lich's barrier and unleashes her strongest Ki attack. Unfortunately, her energy is completely depleted. She cannot move, and the lich manages to dodge. From a distance, the lich calls out to Tao, who sacrificed her life. Just as the lich is about to cast its ultimate spell, Tao is protected by a super strong barrier. Loid has reappeared. He asks Tao to step aside, saying he will take over because he is in a hurry. The lich begins to cast a spell, but Loid is already behind him. The lich is shocked. How can Loid cast magic without chanting? Tao realizes Loid is combining his magic by using the lich. Loid attacks brutally but remains indifferent, using the fight to practice his new technique, combining ki and magic. But he realizes his barrier makes it hard to breathe, so he removes it. The lich thinks he's successfully broken Loid's barrier and unleashes a devastating combined attack. Loid, however, uses ki to dodge with great agility. Loid successfully combines mana and ki. He blocks the lich's attack but feels something is still missing. He focuses his ki and attacks the lich with a pure ki blast. The lich is confused. How can there be such a powerful attack without chanting? He asks, is it really that strong? Loid then enhances the technique and slashes the lich in two. Tao is speechless, seeing Loid's immense power. After finishing the fight, they check the dungeon reward. It is just a useless knife, and Tao is very disappointed. But Loid asks for the knife as he sees an enchantment on it. Suddenly, the dungeon collapses. Tao says this is normal after the treasure is taken, but Loid has another theory. The chest is the dungeon core. It waits for a magic item, absorbs it, and creates a dungeon around itself to trap adventurers. Loid sees this as a great opportunity to take the core. Tao screams at him to run, but Loid recklessly pulls the core. They nearly die under the ruins, but finally escape.
Tao is surprised Loid didn't use magic to escape. Loid grins, saying escaping while pulling the chest was fun. Loid realizes he needs to rush back to the palace and flies away, leaving Tao watching. Tao then realizes Loid used a secret technique, the Key Blade, a technique she herself hasn't mastered. Tao promises to train harder to be worthy of Loid, but is sad thinking she might not see Robert again. When Loid returns to the castle, he finds Grim collapse tragically. The demon is heavily traumatized from training with Silva. Apparently, Silva thought Loid was weak due to his poor performance yesterday and beat Grim up for real. Grim, crying, complains about being beaten for a useless knife. Loid, calm, says the knife is a treasure. He soaks and scrapes the knife, revealing it is layered with mana essence, the main ingredient for enchantment. He realizes the enchantment is a power boost. He explains the technique is difficult. If he fails, the weapon and essence are destroyed. So he uses purification magic to dissect the essence and create his own. Soon after, they get the secret recipe for mana essence, which requires oil, silver, and hematite. Grim is pessimistic about hematite, made from monster cores. Loid grins, reminding them they have the dungeon core, the chest, so he only needs silver and oil. For silver, Loid asks his father, the king. The king, thinking his son is simple, gives him a full bag of silver coins. Loid and Grim melt the coins. Next, for oil, Loid has a real sparring match against Silva. Loid goes all out using sprint and earth manipulation, but Silva disappears and Loid is soundly defeated. Despite losing, Silva gives him the oil. Loid is confused. Silva explains he is happy. He was worried Loid's previous performance meant he was weak, so he is relieved it was just a bad day. Loid finally gets all the ingredients and mixes the enchantment potion. Next step, weapons. He asks Albert to request the guards donate weapons for enchantment. The guards are reluctant to give expensive weapons to a child for enchantment, thinking it a waste, but at Albert's request, they hand over the weapons. Loid immediately goes to work. Grim is shocked. Loid writes multiple layers of spells on the sword. Unfortunately, the metal can't handle it and the sword shatters. Loid works all night on trial and error. The next day, he reports to Albert claiming he only successfully enchanted 50 out of 120 swords. Actually, Loid could do more, but he got greedy and added too many spells, causing many to break. Albert is shocked. The best professional enchanter has a 10% success rate, while Loid achieved 42%. Albert realizes his brother is extremely talented. A guard, still disbelieving, enters, but when he tries to put the sword in the scabbard is sliced. Albert is impressed. Loid wants to see the sword in action. Just then, Albert says the king ordered them to hunt monsters and Loid can join. Silva drives the carriage and the princes prepare to hunt. Loid is thrilled and curious about his enchantment results. On the way, Albert teases Silva. Does he have feelings for Loid? Before he finishes, Silva draws his sword. Albert freezes, but Silva actually senses an enemy. A horde of kobolds attack. The soldiers prepare for battle.
Loid pretends to be scared, but Grim knows Loid was the first to sense the enemy using Tao's key detection. Grim thinks his master is getting terrifying. The battle begins. The guards are shocked. Their enchanted swords are incredibly sharp, cutting kobolds like paper. Loid is satisfied. It was a great success. Albert is proud, proclaiming it's his brother's power. Silva is also amazed. Suddenly, a kobold attacks Loid from behind. Unexpectedly, Tao appears and saves Loid. Loid is surprised to see Tao, who is shocked to see Loid using key breathing, especially with a face resembling Robert. Silva immediately confronts Tao, telling her to retreat from the prince. The two women prepare to fight. Albert intervenes and invites Tao to join their camp. At the camp, Albert introduces himself. Tao is shocked Loid is a prince. She is even more suspicious as Loid's key aura resembles Robert's, and she searches for Robert. Loid inwardly curses using key. Grim tells him he can't stop now or it will look suspicious. Loid hides in a tent but finds Silva changing clothes. Silva calmly says they will sleep together to protect Loid. Loid protests, but Silva holds him back so he doesn't meet Tao. Too late, Tao appears outside the tent, calling for Robert. Silva instinctively throws his knife. The two women leave the tent and immediately argue. Seeing the opportunity, Loid sneaks out and finds Albert. Albert smiles, saying Loid just broke two girls' hearts. Silva and Tao realize the soldiers are watching them and team up to fight the soldiers. Once the area is calm, Tao explains she was hired to restore an ancient temple on a hill. Silva tells her to leave, but Albert stops him, saying Tao's detection ability is useful and asks her to stay until morning. Soon after, a giant wolf monster they call Bear Wolf appears. The soldiers prepare to fight. Loid is thrilled, but he notices Grim looking at the temple strangely, as if remembering something. Tao joins the fight. Albert enters the fray casting a spell, his power insanely boosted by Loid's enchanted sword. With just one attack, the monster dies. Though everyone praises Albert, Albert knows it's all thanks to Loid's enchantment. Suddenly, Grim remembers something terrible. A powerful demon is sealed in that temple. The dead bear wolf is reanimated along with a horde of other monsters. Something emerges from the bear wolf's mouth, the source of the trouble, a demon named Paujizu. He screams they will die for harming his pet. The reanimated monsters immediately attack Albert. Albert stabs one monster's eye, but it instantly regenerates. Fortunately, Tao saves Albert. The problem, the monsters keep regenerating. Grim explains to Loid that Paujizu uses mana transmutation to control the monsters, giving them endless regeneration. The fight won't end unless they deal with Paujizu. But Loid's mind is elsewhere. Instead of fear, he is excited to learn the technique. Grim panics, saying it's not the time for lessons, but Loid calmly tells him to teach him now.
Amid the chaos, Paujizu mocks them, saying they only survived thanks to Loid's weapon. He points at Loid, calling him weak and trash. Insulting Loid causes Silva to snap. Silva charges, saying Paujizu's foul smell is ruining Loid's air, so he must kill the smelly demon. Paujizu laughs, thinking they can't win. He thinks Silva is trembling from fear, but Silva calmly replies he is trembling from holding back vomit because Paujizu's breath smells so bad. The enraged Paujizu attacks, but Silva quickly slashes his leg. Paujizu's leg immediately regenerates, but the others realize something important. The monster's movements have slowed. The idea, Silva must keep Paujizu busy regenerating so the others can eliminate his minions. Meanwhile, Grim nervously teaches Loid mana transmutation. Shockingly, Loid masters it immediately. He can already calmly shape and color his mana. Back in the fight, Silva wields Loid's enchanted sword, saying he is proud. Paujizu mocks him, but suddenly manages to clamp his mouth around Silva. Surprisingly, Silva cuts through Paujizu from the inside and successfully decapitates him. The head of Paujizu laughs. He then releases miasma, a poisonous fog. Albert immediately collapses from the miasma. Worse, the strong Silva also passes out. Paujizu, enraged, claims he needs companions to create his minions. He throws the unconscious Silva into a lake. The half-conscious Silva still manages to insult his smell. When Paujizu was about to attack again, Tao saves Silva. Strangely, Tao is unaffected by the miasma. After Silva truly passes out, Paujizu is curious why Tao is immune. Tao attacks him, but Paujizu catches him with his tail. He hits Tao and guesses her key-breathing technique protects her from the miasma. His guess is correct. The blow disrupts Tao's breathing. Paujizu asks why Tao doesn't run. Tao, in pain, says she won't leave the handsome guy, Loid. She attacks with ki, but a remnant monster attacks her. Paujizu mocks her and releases more miasma, which finally affects Tao. Tao, hallucinating, says she feels Robert's presence, who will defeat Paujizu. She is then truly eaten by a monster. Paujizu drags Silva away, thinking he will make a powerful minion. While monologuing, Loid interjects, "Oh, so that's how you control the bear wolves?" Paujizu is shocked, but proudly explains he killed their mother and used miasma to take their place. After finishing, Paujizu realizes Loid is completely calm in the miasma. Loid is just grinning. Then Paujizu insults Grim, calling him the disgrace of demonkind. Grim is offended, and Paujizu orders the bear wolves to attack Loid. Loid thinks this is a good opportunity to test his mana transmutation technique. He creates a massive field of flowers using his mana. Miraculously, the bear wolves, seeing the flowers, remember their motherly love. Paujizu's control vanishes, and they switch allegiance to Loid. Loid orders one bear wolf to spit out Tao. Paujizu is shocked. Grim laughs, saying Paujizu's magic is useless because the bear wolves remember Paujizu killed their parent. The vengeful bear wolves swarm Paujizu, forcing him to release Silva.
Loid, watching, is impressed. He thinks they are stronger fighting together. Paujizu resists the attacks, claiming demons cannot be killed by magic. Loid remembers Grim saying there's no history of it, but Loid just smiles. It's not that it can't be done, it's just hard, right? He wants to test how much magic it takes to kill a demon. Paujizu feels Loid's dense mana aura and becomes terrified. Loid, on the contrary, is excited to go all out. Loid traps Paujizu with a barrier. Paujizu realizes Loid wants to use him as a test subject and desperately tries to escape. Grim asks Loid, how many spells can you cast? Loid replies, alone maybe 20, but with your help maybe more. Grim merges with Loid again. They spam a ridiculous number of barriers. Paujizu is trapped in a dimensional enclosure. Loid mocks him. Aren't demons immune to magic? Loid reminds Paujizu about his bearwolf experiment. Paujizu has no right to complain. Loid casts a high-speed 4-element spell simultaneously. Paujizu begs for mercy. Loid casts 240 spells per minute. He planned to torture Paujizu for 30 minutes, but after only 5 minutes, Paujizu goes silent. He is probably scourged. Grim thinks Paujizu died from mental stress. Albert, Silva, and others regain consciousness. Loid panics, thinking of an excuse. Grim talks to Paujizu's remnants, saying he lost because he lacked leisure. Paujizu seems to pass his ambition to Grim. Grim absorbs Paujizu's remnants to increase his mana. Grim observes Loid making up a story for Albert. Grim thinks it will take much more than this to truly kill his master, Loid. They return to the city. The king congratulates Albert on clearing the monsters. The king is also curious about the mysterious adventurer, Robert. Albert explains Robert left and Tao is currently chasing him. Albert clarifies that Loid actually contributed the most with his advanced enchanted sword. Albert formally requests the king to name Loid as a candidate for the throne. The king is confused, but Albert wisely says he only wants the best for the empire. When asked, Loid calmly refuses the offer, indifferent to the throne. Loid leaves the palace. One of the rescued bearwolf pups follows him. It wants to play. Seeing Loid petting the monster, Grim becomes intensely jealous and changes his appearance to look cuter. While they play, Silva suddenly appears. Loid panics and hides Grim in the bear-wolf thick fur, which he names Zero. Silva explains monster tamers use mana to teach tricks. Grim, thinking Loid is a magic maniac, shakes his head. The king and Albert watch from afar. The king thinks Loid is simple, but Albert thinks the title of king might be too small for Loid's ambition.
Loid tries simple commands with Zero, but fails with complicated ones. He realizes he needs to learn from an expert, his older sister, Alice, who is great at taming monsters. Loid visits her tower. Alice hugs Loid immediately, making her attendant, Eris, protest. Alice says she connects with monsters only through instinct. Silva is skeptical, believing Alice doesn't understand mana. Loid is curious. Suddenly, a giant wolf named Liru appears silently behind Loid. Loid is shocked. He realizes Alice was giving complex commands while talking. Loid realizes his sister is a master. He asks her to teach him how to talk to monsters. Alice's answer is simple: do it with love. Silva and Eris sweat drop, thinking it's nonsense, but Loid believes her. Seeing Loid seriously contemplating love, Silva gets flustered, thinking it's about romantic love. Loid, analyzing, realizes Alice isn't using sound, she's sharing thoughts directly through mana. Loid tries it. He sends a mental image to Zero and it works. Zero runs around him, jumping. Eris is shocked, unable to believe Loid mastered the high-level technique in minutes. Loid becomes skilled at riding Zero. Silva, wanting sword practice, and Albert having important matters, fight over Loid's time. Loid chooses to go with Albert, who introduces him to the fourth prince, Dean, at the blacksmith's workshop. Dean is skeptical that a boy like Loid can make enchanted swords for Albert. Dean gives Loid a sword and asks him to enchant it immediately. Loid does it calmly. Dean checks, utterly shocked. The enchantment is perfect and advanced. He admits Loid is skilled. Dean eagerly suggests collaboration, creating the ultimate sword. Loid must enchant the steel while Dean forges it. They try to make a fire sword, but the steel shatters. Loid realizes the spell is too complex. Dean admits he used cheap, discounted mana essence. Loid checks the essence, the hematite level is too low. Silva suggests they farm hematite in a dungeon. They go to the Adventurers Guild. To register, Loid touches the strength-measuring crystal ball. He flashbacks to his past life. Fearing a repeat, he heavily restrains his mana. The result, he is detected as rank A. Other adventurers laugh, thinking the machine is broken, but the receptionist Katarina realizes his magic rank is extremely high, as strong as a veteran. Katarina compares Loid to a legendary adventurer called the Silverblader. Katarina's words anger other adventurers. Silva, unconcerned, requests a dungeon quest. The requirement is a rank B member is needed. Katarina then reveals Silva is the legendary Silverblader. The other adventurers freeze. Suddenly, Tao appears offering to help. She is now rank A from grinding while searching for Robert. She agrees to help, requesting an introduction to Albert as payment. The three, Loid, Silva, and Tao, enter the dungeon, clear it, and retrieve the dungeon core chest, hematite. Back at the workshop, Albert is stressed about the looming war. Loid arrives with the dungeon core. Loid, Dean, and Albert successfully create the ultimate sword. Dean tests it. The fire explosion is massive, almost destroying the workshop. Loid grins, realizing he was overzealous with the enchantment, making it too overpowered. As a final scene, Loid says he mass-produced the fire swords, but the enchantment was nerfed, lowered. The swords only shoot regular fireballs, not massive explosions like the prototype.
One day, Loid's danger sensor lights up. He sees a suspicious girl in the park. When approached, the girl panics and tries to escape, but hits Loid's barrier. The girl, an assassin, sprays him with poison. Loid calmly uses purification magic, but the girl laughs, saying her poison is special. Loid realizes the poison is specialized black tea mana. The girl introduces herself as Ren, the poison black tea. Ren successfully breaks Loid's barrier and escapes. Loid is fascinated, not angry. Grim panics, but Loid is calm. It's thanks to the healing breath he learned from Tao. His recovery is much faster than the poison's effect. Grim asks why he let her go. Loid grins, explaining he let her go so he could track her to her Assassin Guild headquarters. He is excited to collect data on their power, and immediately follows Ren's trail. Ren arrives at the headquarters and meets other members. One complains about Ren being exposed. Suddenly, one girl senses they are being watched, and Loid appears. Ren is shocked. How are you alive? A man there recognizes Loid as the seventh prince. The situation escalates. The guild decides to kill Loid. Loid, however, turns off his barrier. Grim panics. Loid says they are unique, and he only wants power samples. He adopts a stance, using the trace skill from Tao. First, Babylon, the flexible body, attacks. Loid blocks. Suddenly, Crow, the cursed speech user, says the word drown. Loid's body becomes heavy. As Loid slows, Galilia attacks. Loid uses a physical power-up, breaks through the power dampening, and dodges. Loid lands on Galilia, but gets caught in a web. Loid calmly removes his clothes to get free, complementing their power. Talia attacks. Strangely, she stabs herself, but Loid screams in pain.
This is Talia's power, 100% shared pain. Talia thinks Loid is scared, but Loid is thrilled to find a new magic. He heals his leg, and Talia's leg heals automatically. Excited, he attacks, using the trace technique to mimic Silva's sword style. Galilia recognizes it as the silver blade style. They panic. Loid charges, defeating Babylon easily. When Crow attacks, the spell hits Galilia, who crashes into Talia. Crow yells stop, but Loid is faster, knocking Crow out. Galilia, still attached to Talia, tries to attack, but her movement tears Talia's clothes. Loid attacks, but Talia yells it's useless. The damage will bounce back. Loid gets hit, but is happy to feel the pain. Loid uses the Ki Tao technique to defeat Galilia. Ren is terrified. Loid approaches Ren, asking for another poison sample. Galilia quickly warns Loid not to let Ren panic, or everyone will die from her uncontrolled poison. Loid realizes their main problem is lack of control. Loid casts his barrier again. Galilia is shocked, feeling her wild mana suddenly controlled. Plot twist: Loid secretly carved a super complex spell on Galilia's body during the fight to help her control her power. Galilia is moved to tears. Loid helps the others. Crow can now speak normally. Loid is officially welcomed into the group.
Loid asks them to show their powers for research. Galilea talks about the guild's history. Loid is initially bored but perks up when he hears the name Jet, their leader, and his teleportation power. Jet formed the guild to get recognized, but vanished when Loid is prepared for war. Suddenly, a magical teleportation circle appears, and a postcard arrives. Meanwhile, Silver raids the empty headquarters. He finds a note, gone to Lourdes. Albert panics, thinking Loid is kidnapped. He wants a peaceful solution. But Silva finds Loid's torn clothes and sticky white substance from Galilea's web. Seeing the evidence, Albert immediately rages. Declare war.
We return to the assassin headquarters. It turns out the letter is from Jet. Its content states that Jet is now the ruler of Lourdes. He even invites them to his palace. Loid is clearly very suspicious. Jet supposedly can't control teleportation, so how did the letter arrive perfectly timed? Because of this, Loid believes it is a trap, but he decides to go anyway because he wants to see the teleportation magic. Along the way, they rest in the forest. Ren takes the initiative to look for food. Here, there is a flashback. Jet was the one who found Ren. Other members were afraid of her poison at the time, but Jet dared to hug Ren and immediately fainted. Nevertheless, Jet accepted Ren, gave her a hair clip, and Ren finally found her family. Returning to the present, Ren prepares food that looks extremely disgusting. Loid, without hesitation, tries it and eats it ravenously because he remembers his old poor life. Seeing this, the others try it too, and they are shocked because it actually tastes delicious. There is another flashback. Jet once gave them good news. Their bounty status was lifted. At that time, he claimed to be the third son of Lourdes. He said he needed allies to end the war, but he didn't want them to participate in killing. After that, he left and told them to live a normal life. Back in the present, they finally arrive at the palace, where a party is taking place. Jet appears, showing off his teleportation skills. However, Jet suddenly tells them to bow. Instantly, all of Jet's companions transform into demons. Jet then reveals that his plan has succeeded, gathering the Black Tea bodies. Grim, who is secretly following Loid, immediately fires a laser. But Jet quickly teleports behind Grim and fires back. As a result, Grim is hit and falls near Loid. Jet, whose real name is Gajam, explains that he is from the Netherworld. He hijacked Jet's body to take his power. According to him, the Black Tea body is the ideal vessel for his race. There is a brief flashback where the real Jet tried to commit suicide, but Gajam healed him at the last second and took over his body completely. That's why Gajam's minions are now targeting Ren's body. Gajam notices the mark of Loid's spell carved on Ren's body. Just as Gajam is about to strike, an insane surge of magic energy appears. Loid fires a giant laser from a distance, destroying half the demons and creating a massive crater. Loid quickly heals Ren and tells the guild to run. Galilea, without a word, vanishes, saying they would only be a burden. Meanwhile, the undying Gajam teleports back and orders his minions to capture the guild members. Gajam's minions swarm Loid. Gajam also summons a dragon. Oddly, the dragon can penetrate Loid's barrier. Just as Loid is analyzing this, Grim yells at him to run. The problem is that Gajam doesn't use incantations. He uses mana transmutation into projectiles, pure energy. Barriers can stop spells, but Gajam's attack is pure mana, so it breaks through. That's when Loid realizes that Gajam is a formidable opponent.
Grim becomes increasingly panicked. He says Gajam is a demon lord above class 1. Grim thinks Loid cannot win, but Loid charges forward. Gajam wants to seize the guild for vessels. Loid wants to protect them because of their potential. They prepare to fight. Grim yells again that Gajum has extreme magic resistance. Gajum fires a projectile and it penetrates Loid's barrier. Grim panics. Loid's strongest magic is useless. Gajum summons thousands of weapons and fires them all. Loid dodges. Suddenly Gajum teleports above him. Loid kicks him, then combines all the weapons into a giant drill. But at that critical moment, Loid summons a giant rock golem that immediately blocks the drill attack. Meanwhile, the assassin gang watching the fight from afar can only stare blankly. The fight is on a completely different level, like watching gods brawl. Unfortunately, minor demons see them and rush the gate. Babylon, the flexible one, quickly tries to open the castle gate to escape. Back in the main arena, Gajum boasts that he is pressuring Loid using Jet's teleportation skill. He mocks humans as weak, saying the blessed were created only to be possessed by demons to unleash their full potential. Gajum even claims he became a perfect being after hijacking Jet's body. To prove it, he continuously teleports weapons, stabbing Loid repeatedly like a skewer. At the gate, Gallia is busy holding back demons with webs. Crow yells commands, making demons collapse. They realize their skills are easier to control thanks to Loid's spell. Babylon opens the gate, but the demons tear Gallia's web. Talia, seeing her friends in danger, makes a desperate decision. She cuts her own leg, causing all demons linked to her skill to collapse in pain. Talia tells her friends to run, fearing her skill will hit them. Ren refuses to leave Talia. Talia becomes more desperate to subdue them again. Ren weeps, but Galilea acts quickly, pushing Ren outside and sealing the gate from the inside. Talia is confused. Gallia says she will help Talia hold the demons. They both decide to sacrifice themselves. Gallia holds the demons in her web while telling Talia to perform the final attack, suicide. Outside, Ren is crying hysterically. Now back to Loid against Gajum. Gajum looks disappointed, thinking Loid has lost. Loid's injured body suddenly crumbles. It was just a decoy. The real Loid suddenly appears behind Gajum, stealing one of his weapons. Gajum is surprised, but teleports away. However, Loid says the situation is not good and invites Gajum to fight somewhere else. Before they can move, a rain of fireballs descends from the sky, attacking the minor demons. The castle gate breaks down and Prince Albert appears with the royal army. Ren is delighted to see the reinforcements. Albert, seeing the chaos, immediately rages, leading his troops determined to save Loid. We briefly switch to Silva, who is having a difficult training session, struggling to contain his power. Back at the castle, the stressed Albert decides to interrogate the assassin gang first. Silva, who has arrived, threatens them, asking, "Where is Loid?" Gallia says Loid is fighting inside. Ren accidentally blurts out that Loid is fighting the demon boss. Babylon quickly covers Ren's mouth, remembering Loid's power must be kept secret. Loid once said he only wanted to focus on magic studies and avoid Albert's attention. Albert tells Silva to start with the adults. Although they swear they are Loid's friends, Albert doesn't believe them. He pulls out evidence: Loid's underwear found in their headquarters. Gallia panics, explaining it was a misunderstanding. Loid's clothes were drying after being covered in my sticky liquid. This makes the situation worse. Albert's mind goes dark upon hearing underwear and sticky liquid. He rages at his troops. Declare war.
He thinks Loid was sexually assaulted. Ren panics. A demon attacks, but Lyra, the giant werewolf, devours the demon. Alice arrives, Loid's sister, saying she trusts Ren since Liru isn't attacking. Albert is convinced. Ren is forced to lie. Loid is lonely fighting weak enemies. Suddenly, a huge magic blast hits the sky, destroying the castle bridge. This was clearly the work of Loid's fight against Gajum. Dean then saw the demons crossing the river. Because of this, Albert ordered his troops to retreat. Meanwhile, above the castle, Loid and Gajum were watching the chaos. Apparently, they were both too lazy to be bothered. So, they continued fighting. Loid finally decided to focus 100% on Gajum. Below, the demons were still regenerating. Albert did use his fire sword, but he realized that the magic sword was wasteful of mana. If this continued, their troops would be defeated first. Albert then looked for Silva. It turned out that Silva had dared to ride Zero and ordered him to jump across the river to chase Loid. Unfortunately, they didn't make it. Instead, they plunged into the water. Instantly, the demons attacked. But this demon was different. This was the 8th rank demon. Yes, on the same level as Pajuzu. He immediately told Silva that there was no hope. On the other hand, Albert was hesitant to kill the demons because they possessed the bodies of citizens. Luckily, Babylon suddenly rescued Albert. Babylon then said that Albert was too kind.
even though her people were already dead and could not be saved. On hearing that, Albert couldn't hold back any longer. He immediately activated Loid's enchanted sword and summoned a giant rain of fire. Back to Silva, he was in an epic duel with the sword demon. The fight was evenly matched, but the demon kept regenerating. While fighting, the demon said that he wanted to take Silva's body. Then suddenly he used a high-level Lorded sword technique and slashed Silva. After that, he boasted, saying that this skill belonged to the body he possessed. However, Silva, who had just been slashed, suddenly stood up and countered with the demon technique he had just used. He also called the demon weak for having to steal a body. Finally, Silva decided to get serious. He then calls Zero, ruffles his feathers, and pulls out a new sword. It turns out Loid had prepared this one specifically for Silva, made as strong as possible to withstand his full power. There's a small flashback where Loid explains that the demon is a spirit. The way to kill it is to destroy its body in one hit, so it doesn't have time to regenerate. Because of that, Silva named the sword Demon Bane. The demon obviously laughs at him. He even spills the secret that this war was all just a plan to lure the real Jet out. Ren hears it and gets furious. When the demon is about to use his ultimate move, Silva, using Demon Bane, cuts him down in one hit, and it's over instantly. Then there's another flashback. We see the real Jet before his body is taken. At that time, he told Gadgem that he wouldn't win. But Jet's memories of his guildmates apparently blocked out important memories. In the end, it was Gadgem as Jet who ordered the war to begin. Back on the bridge, Silva is seen paying his last respects to the human body he just cut down. Staring at him, she thought he must have been a great swordsman. Plot twist. Suddenly there was a massive steam explosion as the river evaporated. It turned out to be Loid's doing.
Let's flip a bit to the moment when Loid was chased by Gadgem. At that time, he was dizzy. How could he not? Gadgem's Mana Spear could penetrate thin barriers, so he had to spam the reinforced barrier. The problem was, Gadgem also had a teleportation skill, so Loid had to move non-stop, like playing a difficult level game. Loid naturally tried to fight by summoning a giant fire giant, but Gadgem casually teleported, and the fire giant sprayed into the river. Well, that's what made the river evaporate earlier. However, Loid realized something. Gadgem didn't attack while teleporting. From there, he concluded that the teleport skill requires line of sight. You have to see the target. Loid immediately thought that this was his chance, so he created countless clones of himself. Instantly, all the clones attacked and stabbed Gadgem en masse. Seeing that, Gadgem tried to find the clone holding the real sword, then killed it, and boasted by saying that physical attacks were useless. However, the clones didn't disappear. It turned out that the ones he killed earlier were fake too. Gadgem became dizzy looking for the real Loid. Because of stress, he attacked everyone using Mana Spears in all directions. One of the clones that used his barrier was hit. Hey, it turned out to be a clone too. Gadgem finally realized that Loid had deliberately put a barrier on the fake clone just to deceive him. In fact, the real Loid didn't use a barrier and instead used concealment magic. Grimm was clearly confused about what his master was going to do. It turned out that Loid's sword was called Spellbreaker. Loid then used the sword to cut Gadgem's teleportation magic. As a result, he was sucked into a teleportation magic dimension. Once inside, he found the last will or trace of the real Jet, and that's where Loid finally understood everything. After that, the clone disappeared and Loid appeared again. Gadgem clearly thought he gave up, but Loid instead said Gadgem was boring and started preaching that humans are weak but can create extraordinary magic. Gadgem clearly didn't care, and when he teleported to attack, it turned out that Loid was waiting at the place where Gadgem appeared and immediately punched him. Gadgem was naturally shocked. Loid casually told him to attack again. As a result, Loid continued to beat Gadgem. Every time Gadgem teleported, he got hit again. Loid even asked, "Is that enough?" Finally, Gadgem went into full Demon King mode and created a giant mana ball, but the ball suddenly disappeared. Loid then explained that he canceled the ball with his own identical version. He claimed to have learned the spell from Jet's will, and actually, he was just testing what would happen if two identical spells collided. It turned out the results canceled each other out. Gadgem clearly didn't accept this. Out of desperation, he tried to possess Loid's body. However, as soon as he entered, he was immediately defeated. How could he not? Loid's mana was already like a sea of concrete. Instead, Loid created hundreds of those giant mana balls. Gadgem tried to escape, but he was still hit by the attack. Meanwhile, below, Albert and Dean couldn't see anything because of the steam. Meanwhile, above, Gadgem had already been sucked into Loid's magic ball. This time, his regeneration failed miserably. He did try to leave Jet's body, but he ended up trapped. That's when he realized he was going to die. At the last second, he tried to act like the real Jet while screaming for help to Ren and Loid. Luckily, Loid wasn't fooled. He immediately crashed 2 more magic balls, and boom, Gaijin was finally destroyed. After that, the sky cleared again. The real Jet's spirit was finally free and disappeared quietly. Ren then had a flashback to the moment when Jet commented on the rumors about Loid being a magic prodigy. Then, when he returned to the present, Loid was seen building a tomb for Jet. Grimm clearly praised Loid, but Loid said that it was all thanks to Jet. It turned out that the real Jet had deliberately written the teleportation spell formula in the magic room right at the last second. Loid actually only read it and used the formula. Because of that, Loid said Jet had won. Ren was clearly touched. However, Albert suddenly appeared. He said that he already knew the story from Galilea and her friends.
And he was very proud of Loid, but he also reminded him that this gang of assassins technically kidnapped the prince and should be punished. Wow. Hearing that, the assassin gang immediately offered to be Loid's servants for life. Albert then asked Loid if he would accept. The condition was that Loid had to take responsibility. Loid agreed, and after that, Albert advised Loid not to work alone anymore. Not long after, Tao appeared, but he was shy and ran away. Albert rushed after Tao to thank him, and as a result, the assassin gang was now free. The scene then changed. They were all drinking tea together. Tao looked nervous and ordered Silva to get tea like a servant. Silva intentionally spilled the tea. In the end, they fought again. Meanwhile, Tilly invited Albert to drink and tried to share her drunkenness. Who would thought Albert, who was an angry drunk, immediately shouted at Galilea, "Why did you cover Loid with your liquid?" Here, the assassin gang finally realized that Albert was the type of drunk who went berserk. Sometime later at the hot springs, Ren approached Silva and Alice. He apparently asked Silva's permission to work for Loid as a form of repayment. Silva here only told him to ask Loid directly. But suddenly Loid really appeared there in the baths and casually said, "It's okay." And after that, the story ended here.